views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Time Warner Cable.
Hello and welcome to The Bottom Line. My name is Dana Connors and I'm pleased to be your host for this monthly program brought to you by the Maine State Chamber of Commerce. Each month we look at the issues, we discuss them, we try to understand the things that are at play, mostly in our legislature, but also in our state's economy, to help the lives of our people and to improve the bottom line for each of us. As you may well know, that there's a lot of issues at play this session of the legislature, and there's always one that expresses itself as a major barrier to our economic growth. It's always in the top two or three. It's the cost of energy, the price of electricity. And today, I am pleased to be able to welcome and to introduce to you, for those who don't know him, Patrick Woodcock. Patrick had a career with Senator Olympia Snowe, advising her on issues dealing with energy, and we were fortunate to grab him here as part of the LePage administration to do the same for our state. Patrick, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Patrick, for many of you that deal with legislative issues, most notably energy, we find him to be one that's both highly respected and very knowledgeable on an issue that sometimes can get very complex and very confusing. Let's go back for a moment. Not that I want to spend a lot of time on it, but in 2013, an omnibus energy bill was put forward that many hailed as a major visionary piece. And I'm going to oversimplify it for the purposes of just setting the stage for this part of our program. But it looked at how to improve funding for Efficiency Maine to give them more opportunity to help businesses and homeowners. It also recognize the place and the importance of natural gas as a generator, as a supplier of power for electricity and so forth. And it opened the way for the PUC to be able to help bring that to pass. This week, about this time, the governor, through you, is releasing an energy policy that you've been very much a part of. What can you tell us about that? Does that add to what's been done? Does it complement? Does it conflict in any way? Can you share with us what that is?
Sure. Well, let's take a step back and try to assess where we are as a state when it comes to our energy challenges. I look at it and see that Maine is really unique when it comes to how we use energy to power our businesses. One, we are really an outlier when it comes to electrical generation of renewable energy. It's been a cornerstone of our state, whether our hydropower assets or our biomass assets. We have also seen a significant growth in wind. Mm-hmm. We're actually one of the cleanest electrical generating states in the country, fourth in the entire in the union. But on the other side, we are one of the dirtiest when it comes to how we use petroleum, almost double the per capita consumption of oil. Yet our energy policies have really been focused on the electrical sector and getting more renewable energy generation there, not really targeted that Achilles heel. I think what the governor is really looking to do is, one, continue the momentum that we've had over the last couple of years in really transitioning to more affordable heating systems. That's the one cornerstone. The second is, how can we really cut through the knot that has been our natural gas congestion? Mm-hmm. And all of your members are seeing that we are seen these spikes, a lot of volatility with pricing, and that is the failure to really have sufficient natural gas pipeline capacity. And there are some things that the governor will be doing with the legislature, but more importantly, really working with his colleagues across the region, because it is a regional problem, to facilitate a cost-effective amount of natural gas capacity into the region. I'd say those are the two kind of cornerstones right now of, one, focusing our policies to our challenges and getting our natural gas capacity under control.
Let's talk a bit about both the natural gas issue, both in terms of the regional impact, but also in terms of what the issue really is when you talk about natural gas. It's not that we don't already have a reliance, we have a very strong reliance, but we also have those swings in seasons that is a demand and supply type of issue. So increasing capacity allows us to avoid those spikes. Is that fair to say?
In layman's terms, it's comparable to a highway system where you expect to get some congestion. You know, when July 4th, a lot of people want to come into the state, and we expect a certain amount of traffic.
And we hope we get it.
Yeah. On the other hand, if we had that same type of congestion from Memorial Day to Labor Day, that would have a lot of costs on our tourism industry. The same analogy could be applied to our gas congestion in our infrastructure. You expect that you will have days that when it's very cold and there's a lot of demand for heating homes and businesses, that we will have spikes. But that has expanded to encompass almost the entire winter months, where we can't get a sufficient amount of domestic natural gas into the region, and we start relying on imported natural gas, oil, and coal. And that obviously has an environmental cost, but obviously it hits the bottom line.
Interesting. Are we, our history has taught us that because we're dealing with a commodity, there's always a danger in picking winners and losers. We saw the experience of the late 70s with biomass, non-utility generators, that we now pay the price. In the last several years, there's been a real strong effort to expand the portfolio, to encourage the investment in a multiple of different alternatives so that the consumer can choose. Does this run counter to that?
You know, that's a very good question. I see it as, for a lot of reasons, we've seen a shift to natural gas in the region. One of that is for environmental reasons. We've really made it a priority to get off oil and coal, and that has environmental benefits. We've also seen retirements of some cleaner energy sources like nuclear power and Vermont Yankee. Yeah. And because of what you outlined, that there are so many risks, businesses tend to be risk adverse. And the power that companies have looked to is natural gas. And we've had a significant switch towards natural gas in the region, but they have not invested in the pipeline capacity to match the shift. And as a result, I look at it as, how can we manage a choice that businesses have already made? Businesses have decided to move to natural gas, and this will make it more cost-effective if we create the infrastructure to support those decisions.
Well, and as I heard you mention our Energy Summit last week, we had a self-serving comment, I admit, but I felt to be an excellent format to give back to basics and talk about all forms and what's at play here. I remember you describing the governor's proposal in this way, and you just spoke to it a moment ago: less pollution, less cost, or lower cost, less pollution. And that seems to embrace what I'm hearing you say, is that you're not picking.
I mean, one of the proposals the governor has is, instead of saying that we should have a wind goal, or we should have a solar goal, or a geothermal goal, let's make it technology neutral. Yep. Let's say our goals of our state are lower costs, lower pollution, whichever can get us to the finish line we support.
Yep.
And that's maximizing innovation of the technologies that are developing now or maybe in development. And that's how he is technology agnostic and really results focused. That's how he's run his businesses, and that's how he really views energy policy. Let's look at the bottom line for these costs, and let's lower pollution.
Well, and it's pretty hard to go wrong with that philosophy, too, because it doesn't dictate which one. It says the one that best works for us is the one that we'll pursue at this time. It doesn't minimize the other investments and other alternatives that companies want to make. Let me ask this. I mean, everyone agrees that one of the greatest ways to lower cost or to save on cost is through efficiencies, whether it's business or home. And you can't We all are aware of the power of that conjunctive word "and." Can you speak to that? We only have a couple minutes left, not a lot of time, but it's an important issue because of how it affects efficiency, and it appears that it's somewhat tied to a restructuring. Can you address that? What do you see the solution to be?
Some basics here. Prior to the 2013 bill that you referenced, the legislature in the biennial budget approved the right amount for efficiency. And for a lot of groups and businesses said that that was underfunded.
Yep.
But also difficult for an elected body to increase fees on electric bills. What the bill did was give that authority to the Public Utilities Commission. They would establish the cost-effective investment in energy efficiency. And that is kind of as most businesses would recognize, the right amount is a discount rate into the future. Right. There are savings over the long term, but higher upfront costs.
Exactly.
And what the Public Utilities Commission, they did put some requirements that it cannot be over a certain threshold, and there was a mistake made in the legislation that set a cap at a lower level than the legislature intended. That is the word that you described.
Yeah.
And I think it's helpful that we're talking about a 3-letter word and not a 4-letter word.
Yeah, right.
But I think that we'll be able to find a way forward. It's a little difficult. It's a new legislature. There are a lot of new Democrats and Republicans who weren't part of the legislation. And what the governor has proposed is, let's fix it. Let's also put a level of oversight over these programs. If we are going to put a lot more investment into the programs, let's ensure that it's really working for the main ratepayers and the main businesses.
Patrick, you are a very knowledgeable and excellent guest, and I'm sorry to say our 13 minutes is up. I welcome you back. This is an issue that is going to play out in the next couple of months and has tremendous impact on our economy and our state's success. So
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to be right back. We're going to continue to look at this as well as some other issues that the Chamber is dealing with. But first, we need to hear from our sponsors. Thank you.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Why is my son having trouble in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with my son over his homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No. He's smart, but his mind wanders.
7 wonders of the world.
Why don't you understand me?
I do. I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund Reading.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
You're watching Time Warner Cable Community.
Welcome back as we continue our discussion on energy, but also add to that other issues within the energy and environmental interests of this legislative session. I'm pleased to welcome one of our own family, Ben Gilman. Ben, for the purposes of our audience, is a senior policy advisor dealing with energy, environment, and education. Today, we'll limit our discussion to energy and the environment and come back another day for education. He's also one of our principal advocates for those same areas. So, Ben, you were here when Patrick Woodcock talked about the governor's proposal. What's your reaction to what was said? What's your takeaway in terms of what's being proposed?
Well, I think two things. We all know the governor's very passionate about energy, and it's one of his top policy areas. So I think they're going to put a lot of emphasis on this policy area. We heard that from Patrick. I think one is his proposal looking at alternative heating sources for within the home, and then also changing the evaluation of what we look of where we get our electricity. That conversation he had about low cost, low pollution. But I think really where the action is going to lie is at the end of the conversation of how do we fix that conjunction junction with in the efficiency main. Yep. And I think at the end of the day, this legislature will come together. It is a big deal having that and also the governor's proposal of some more oversight into that organization. So Patrick does a great job representing the governor before the Energy and Utilities Committee. Yeah. And I think a lot of the discussion is going to circle around that issue, whether it be in one bill to fix one piece and then come back and look at the oversight of the Efficiency Main Trust, of elevating energy to a commissioner-level office within the cabinet. That's one proposal. And also the appointment of the executive director of Efficiency Main. So I think from both perspectives, these are high-priority issues for the governor. Yeah. And I fully expect he's gonna push pretty hard to get what he wants on it. So
well, it's pretty much characteristic. I mean, he gets into issues and he pushes very hard for them. Let me ask this. I mean, when you mentioned two bills, that seems to be an orderly way to deal with it. You fulfill the basic premise that was set forward in the omnibus bill, but you also deal with an issue that's not new to this governor. I mean, we both can remember in 2006 when Efficiency Main was established, what the oversight was, who the agency or the director was responsible to, became an issue of quite considerable debate. It was decided to be independent. That didn't mean it couldn't be revisited. So maybe they are two separate bills that play out on their own merits and see what happens. It solves the problem, nevertheless.
Sure, and I mean, with two separate bills, it does solve the problem, and it gets the politics out of it a little bit. So you have one bill dealing with one issue, one bill dealing with the other. We'll see the direction of how the committee wants to tackle them, but that would be a good path forward from our perspective.
But clearly at play here, not to continue to talk about this issue for the whole program, but clearly the importance, and you said it, the importance of energy to the state's economy is without dispute. We may do well when we look at the Northeast region, the New England states, but on a national level, we don't do so well, and becomes an issue with locating plants and other parts in competition with us. It seems like we're on the right track. If we can deal with this capacity issue to address the problems and the opportunities of natural gas, we continue to build out a portfolio that gives people choices. Don't we avoid that, putting all of our eggs in one basket and repeating the past when you pick winners that end up possibly being losers?
We do, and I think it's important to point out that in the past we were a regulated electricity market. We deregulated about 15 years ago in the state of Maine. So the market does drive in terms of where the fuel is going to come from and the cost. And I think that's where Patrick was getting at when he was talking about the regional solution of natural gas. A lot of our large industrial and commercial users moved to natural gas, but we didn't update our infrastructure, specifically down in southern New England. Yep. So the pipe, it's the same size pipe that's been serving the area. It needs to be increased because we went from 17% reliance on natural gas to almost 60% reliance on natural gas. So that's a big issue. Yep. Patrick's doing a good job with the other New England states negotiating that. But I think getting back to the deregulation back in 2000 of our electricity market has something to do with that in terms of not picking winners and losers and letting the market drive where the energy comes from.
Well, I actually look at this issue hopeful and optimistic because it is such an issue. But there are things playing out on the table that I think can help serve us well. Yeah. I want to shift your attention because you have both the Utilities and Technology Committee, but you also have natural resources and the environment, or environment natural resources. And I know that there's a big issue that's repeated itself from two previous sessions, namely mining. Where does that stand at the moment, and what do you see how that's proceeding in the...
Well, you're right. This mining bill has been a piece of legislation we've been dealing with for going on 4 years now. We passed a bill to update our mining laws about 4 years ago in terms of making it an opportunity to pursue an industry that just hasn't been active in Maine due to our restrictive nature of our rules at that time. So the Department of Environmental Protection has updated our mining rules as they were directed by previous legislatures, and those rules are now back before this legislature, before the Natural Resources Committee, and they're spending a lot of time on these rules because it's important that we get it right. We have some good opportunities here in the state of Maine, specifically in the northern part of the state, in areas in the state that certainly can use some economic development, but it's important that we get it right. And we strike that balance between our environment and our natural resources. We all know natural resources are, that's what makes Maine Maine. Yeah. But we do have an opportunity, and we can strike that balance. There's a lot of veterans on the Natural Resources Committee that are familiar with this issue, whether it be the chair, Tom Saviello, former chair, Bob Duchesne, who's returned after term limits, and also, former Speaker John Martin, who's serving on the Natural Resources Committee, and whose area is really going to be impacted by this the most. So the rules are returned. They have their sleeves rolled up. They're working this bill. They've already had like 2 days of full work sessions plus public hearings, and they're going to get it right. And I see a great opportunity for the state of Maine. Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, we will pass something this legislative session. That's our hope. We've been, big advocates for this, of opening up a new industry. Technology has changed in the last 30 years, and we'll get it done this legislative session.
I've only got about 3 or 4 minutes to go. I want to go back again to the Energy, Utilities, and Technology Committee and talk about an issue that has really surfaced this session. 35 or so bills dealing with high-speed broadband. What's the issue there in a couple of minutes?
Yeah, the Energy Committee, they're dealing with 37 bills dealing with broadband, access to broadband here in the state of Maine, compared to just a few of the energy bills that we heard about earlier. And the real issue surrounding a lot of these bills has to do with government-owned networks. And a lot of folks, access to broadband, and it's the age-old question of whether or not we allow the market to build our broadband network, or do we have government intervention. And the way you get the government intervention is you increase fees on, users of whether it be wireless or landline or cable or however you get your internet signal, and build out specific, whether in specific communities around the state of Maine. This is a big issue facing the Energy and Utilities Committee this session. Like I said, there's 37 bills on it, and it's going to be I think one of the legacies of this Energy and Utilities Committee is of what they decide to do on this issue. But from our perspective, if you look at where we've come in the last 10 years in terms of broadband in the state of Maine, we've come a long way.
Yeah,
and that's due to the free market. That's due to the open competition that we have. It's not like there's a monopoly out there. You could have cell service, you could have cable, you can have landline service. So from our perspective, we should allow the free market to continue to work, and there's not a need to subsidize the middle mile for broadband access. We always have to take care of that last mile.
Yeah.
Those folks that live, we live in a rural state, really at the end of the line to make sure they have it. But when we're talking about the first mile, the middle mile, that's really where we should allow the market forces to drive it.
Yeah, and that 6% for those who don't have the service is where you would see that play out.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? I mean, it's going to be an active session. We see a lot of opportunities. There are challenges today, but they open the door to a lot of possibilities, whether it's in energy, whether it's in the broadband access, whether it's in mining, or whether it's in the tax reform proposal. There's a lot of activity out there that can move our state forward if we can come together and work together. And I guess on that note, what Ben said, as well as today's program, really reminds me of the importance that balance plays in decision making. And where we often see this played out is when you have the economic opportunities collide with the environmental concerns. Now, I'm the first to say, and I think most people would back up this notion, that every economic opportunity, there is a responsibility to hold out the promise of what that means, how it's evaluated and how it's understood. At the same time, we also need to understand the risks, the impacts that go with that, so that's understood and evaluated as well. But so often in the debate and the discussion, the analysis is replaced by fear and emotion, and at some point in the discussion, you're forced to choose between the environment or the economy. It seems that you can't choose both. Well, the truth is, we can choose both. We must choose both. Growing our economy and protecting our environment are not mutually exclusive. One is not the enemy of the other. We need both to be partners if we are to pursue and be successful. Study after study that we conduct in which you face and address the barriers of the state, we also ask the question of our business community, what are the economic advantages that we have in our state? What are those assets? Here's what they are. The quality of our people, the quality of our place. The quality of our people, the loyal, hardworking people that we have in our state, our natural resources, our forests, our mountains, our lakes, our streams, our downtowns, our small towns. But when you add to that the quality of our product, the unique place that we have in the world's economy because of our products, what you have is not only a pathway to our future success defined, but you have a brand, which is quality. Quality of our people, quality of our place, and quality of our products. That brand is only possible if we recognize that we need both a growing economy and protecting environment. And that comes with balance in decisions. That is our bottom line for this month. We thank you for our audience and participation. I thank my guests, Ben and Patrick, and I look forward to seeing you right back here on the bottom line in May. Until then, thank you very much.